Hey guys, in this video we are going to go over some factoring strategies. So you have done factoring many years. Since Math 1 you probably started factoring. So chances are you have some strategy that maybe has already been working for you. Some teachers call it Big X or blankety blank, busting the B. Those are all the ones that I have heard of before. I personally use an unboxing method just because I'm a very visual person. So when numbers are organized like graphically or in a table, that just makes it easier for my brain to process. You 100% do not have to do factoring the same way that I do. The only thing I will tell you is you need a strategy that is algebraic. Meaning if you have been relying on Desmos or the graph to help you figure out what the factors are, you are going to start to struggle very quickly. So please watch this video, or if you just do a simple Google search of factoring quadratics, factoring trinomials, or a new thing, it might not be new, depending on if you had me for Math 3 or if you were Math 3 honors. Factoring the sum of cubes and factoring the difference of cubes, that might be new, but there are a million videos out there if you need additional resources. So one thing, factoring is the opposite operation of multiplication. So I just wanted to put a few examples up here to remind you how to multiply polynomials together. So if you already remember how to do this, you can pause the video and work it out. I'm not going to do every single one of these. I'll do the first one. And I am going to show you how I use the box method, specifically so when I go to show you how I factor, I can relate factoring to the multiplication. So I would take one of my binomials, the 2x minus 1, and put it on the side, x and a positive 4, and put it there. So this first box is the 2x times the x. 2x times x is 2x squared. 4 times 2x is 8x. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x. And negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. You can also use FOIL or double distribute. Like I said, every teacher has like their own way of naming these steps, but it's all going to give you the same result. So those need to be combined because those are like terms. So my final answer would be 2x squared. 8x minus 1x is 7x. And then minus 4. All right, the next one is just like it. So you should probably do that one on your own. And then in class we can go over the answer to that one. I will do this next one for you. This is a binomial and a trinomial. So I am going to need a 2 by 3 box for this one. 2 because of the x minus 3 being a binomial. And I need 3 boxes going across for the x squared, the positive 3x, and the positive 9. All right, so x times x squared is x cubed. 3x times x is 3x squared. 9 times x is 9x. Negative 3 times x squared. Negative 3 times positive 3x. We'll make negative 9x. And negative 3 times 9 is negative 27. All right, so I have quite a few like terms to combine here. Those are like terms, and these are like terms. Now, if you notice, these are going to cancel each other out. 3x squared minus 3x squared is 0. 9x minus 9x is 0. So my final answer for this will be x cubed minus 27. This is called a difference of perfect cubes. Because 27, you can take the cubed root of 27. The cubed root of 27 is 3. And obviously x to the third power is being cubed. All right, the next one, x minus 4 times x plus 4. 2 by 2, x times x, 4 times x, negative 4x, and negative 4 times positive 4 is negative 16. So again, I have my like terms are going to cancel each other out. So my final answer for this one is x squared minus 16. This would be a difference of 2 squares. X squared, 16 being a perfect square. So with cubes, we can actually do the sum or the difference of perfect cubes. But this is a difference of squares. All right, and this one, just in case you forgot the name of this is a trinomial. All right, so depending on what you're trying to factor, it helps if you kind of remember what the original multiplication problem looked like. So my first example here, 2x squared plus 7x minus 4, that's a trinomial. So I know the only way to produce a trinomial answer is if I did a binomial times another binomial. So I know when I go to factor this, my factors have to look something like x plus a number or x minus a number. In this case, because this is 2x squared, the only way to get 2x squared is if you do 2x times x. So I know it's going to look something like that. I'm actually going to grab a piece of scratch paper because I write bigger than I gave myself room for. All right, so I'm specifically going to do this example because there's a 2 in front of the x squared. A shortcut that you can do, well, factoring is a lot of guess and check, no matter what, unless you just are like crazy good at remembering your times tables and your number sense, there's probably going to be a little bit of guess and check involved when you're factoring regardless. One thing that we can do to make our lives easier, if there is a number in front of x squared, go ahead and multiply those two numbers together. So 2 times negative 4, I'm going to do this on my scratch paper, is negative 8. You want to make a list of numbers that multiply to negative 8. I always start at 1, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 until I'm out. So I know 2 and 4, and I'm done. 3 does not go into 8, and 4 is already on my list. So if you go in order, start at 1, and just go in order, only using numbers that actually go into that number. Don't use any decimals or anything like that. As soon as you get to a number that you already have on this side, you're done. So your answer is somewhere in there. Because this is a negative sign, the only way to multiply and get a negative number is if your signs are different. One of these numbers has to be positive and one of these numbers has to be negative. And so I'm going to look for, basically, if the signs are different, you're subtracting. Whenever the signs are different, you're basically subtracting the numbers. So which pair will subtract and give me a positive 7? So this is the part where you might have a little guess and check depending on the situation. But I know that 8 minus 1 is 7. So my numbers that I need to use are negative 1 and 8. So I'm going to show you 2 ways from here. Like now that I know, this is my scratch paper because I'm just going to write too big. So now that I know that my numbers are negative 1 and 8, if you're doing it graphically with the box to help you organize it, I know 2x squared has to go there, and then it doesn't matter where you put them as long as you put them in these diagonal boxes. But I have negative 1x and 8x, and then the last number in the trinomial was negative 4. This was my original problem. That was my original problem. So what I have inside my box right now equals 2x squared plus 7x minus 4. All right, to figure out what goes on the outside of the box, because that's your answer. The outside of the box is what you multiplied together. I'm going to look for the greatest common factor of each row and each column. So 2x squared and negative 1x, the only thing they have in common is x. And then once you get the ball rolling, you don't really need to look at the greatest common factor anymore. You can just kind of think about, what do I need to put here so that this times x is 2x squared. But you can also look at, 2 and 8, the greatest common factor between 2 and 8 is 2, and they both have an x. So that checks out. 2x times x is 2x squared. All right, now you can look at the greatest common factor of this row, or you can look at, what do I need to put here so that this times 2x is 8x? Well, I know that 2 times 4. So 4 times 2x will give me 8x. Same thing up here. I know that 4 times negative 1 will give me negative 4. So my factors are 2x minus 1 and x plus 4. All right, another strategy that you can use is called, I just call it bottoms up. Now this is one thing that you just have to remember to do, and I'm actually going to scratch that out. If you want to use bottoms up starts with the two numbers that we got from our table, so x plus 8 and x minus 1. But here's the part that everyone always forgets about this strategy, and so that's why I don't like it as much. With the box method, you can check and make sure that everything is working out. So that's why I prefer the box method. But in the bottoms up strategy, you pick the numbers that you got off of the table, and then you divide those numbers by the leading coefficient. If it doesn't reduce, you bottoms up. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. 1/2 does not reduce. So 2, that denominator of the 1/2, bottoms up in front of the x for that particular factor. So that would turn into 2x minus 1. All right, so it's the same thing. All right, so I hope that you go through and try the rest of these. And I will either make another video to go over how to factor the cubic, or that's just something that we'll practice a lot together in class.